The Wire. $1,214,410.18. You stare at it the way you'd stare at a stranger's face in a crowd, certain you know them, unable to place from where. The number doesn't move. It just sits there, glowing, patient, indifferent to the fact that it has just rearranged the architecture of your life. Outside, through the kitchen window, your father is on his knees in the driveway, working a flathead screwdriver into the side of the garden hose nozzle. It broke last week. He could buy a new one for $4.79 at the hardware store on Decker Avenue. He won't. He's been out there for 40 minutes, patient as stone, because spending money he doesn't have to spend has never once occurred to him as an option worth considering. You don't tell him. Not yet. You sit with the number a while longer, and somewhere underneath the disbelief, something colder is already stirring, quiet, almost imperceptible, like a draft finding its way under a door. A question that won't fully form itself yet. Not for weeks, maybe months. Whether the people who loved you when you had nothing will love you the same way now that you have something. Whether love, once money enters the room, ever stays unconditional. Or whether it just gets better at hiding the conditions. You close the laptop. The number stays burned in anyway. 3 bedrooms, 1 bathroom. Go back. 2009. A duplex on Holloway Street, the kind with the chain-link fence that never quite closes right. Your mother, Linda, doing the grocery math out loud in the car before you even walk into the store. What you can afford, what you can't, what gets put back at the register if the total runs high. Your father, Raymond, working doubles at the plant, coming home smelling like machine oil and exhaustion, falling asleep in the recliner before the 8 o'clock news even finishes its first segment. There is a particular quiet to being poor together. Not shame exactly. More like a shared weather system everyone in the house has learned to dress for. You knew which bills got paid on the 1st and which ones could wait until the 15th. You knew the sound of your mother's voice when the answer to something was going to be no before she even said it. Your older sister, Sarah, was 19 then, working at a dental office, barely keeping her own car running. And when you were 20 and short on tuition by $340, an amount that today wouldn't register as a rounding error, but back then sat on your chest like a boulder, she didn't lecture you. She didn't make you ask twice. She just handed you an envelope. Don't tell Mom and Dad. I had it saved for my breaks. They'll hold another month. You remember her exact voice. Tired. Certain. No performance in it at all. You paid her back eventually, slowly, $50 at a time, and she never once brought it up, never once treated it like a debt owed rather than a thing two people who loved each other simply did for one another. That envelope becomes, without either of you realizing it yet, the truest thing in this entire story. The joke that isn't one. The company sells 11 months later. Slow at first. A string of good quarters, an acquisition offer nobody saw coming, and then the wire that changes the number on your screen forever. You don't buy anything flashy. You don't trust it yet, the money, the way you don't trust whether that's too good to be true. But family finds out. Family always finds out. The first cookout afterward, your Uncle Pete raises his beer can toward you across the yard. There he is. Mr. Moneybags. You buying the burgers this year or what? Everyone laughs. You laugh too because that's what you're supposed to do, and because the joke is small enough to swallow without choking. It happens again at Thanksgiving. And again at Sarah's husband's birthday. The joke gets repeated so many times it stops being a joke and starts being a placeholder for something nobody wants to say directly, that the ground has shifted, that you are no longer simply Linda and Raymond's youngest, you are now a category. A figure. A balance sheet wearing a familiar face. Then the calls start changing shape. Your cousin Marcus, who you haven't spoken to in maybe 2 years, texts you out of nowhere. Hey man, long time. Hope you're good. Then, 3 messages later, the real reason surfaces, dressed up as casual. You still doing good with money stuff? Might need to pick your brain sometime. Your father starts mentioning the roof. Not asking. Mentioning. The way you mention weather, like it's simply a fact in the air that you're supposed to notice and respond to without being asked directly, because asking directly would require acknowledging what's actually happening. You help. Of course you help. You pay for the roof, $11,200, A number you remember exactly because it was the first time help stopped feeling like generosity and started feeling like a transaction you hadn't agreed to the terms of. And then, in March, your mother calls about your younger cousin's wedding. Not a request exactly. A statement soft and certain, the kind designed so refusal feels cruel before you've even opened your mouth. We just figured you'd want to help with that. It's family. You say no. It's the first no you've ever said to any of them about money, and the temperature in the room, even over the phone, even from 300 miles away, drops immediately. Silence first. Then her voice, smaller, wounded in a way that feels engineered even though, somewhere it's probably real. I didn't realize money had changed you this much. You hang up shaking. Not from anger. From the sickening realization that saying no to people who raised you now apparently requires a justification, a defense, an apology for money that is, factually, completely yours. You aren't one of us anymore. The real break comes at Christmas, 14 months after The Wire. Everyone's there, Linda, Raymond, Pete, Marcus, Sarah, her husband, the kids running through the living room screaming about a video game console you bought them. The one Pete made a comment about earlier that you pretended not to hear. Marcus brings it up again. The money thing. Some half-formed plan about an investment, a loan, a number with too many zeros for a Tuesday night conversation at a Christmas table. You say no again. Calmer this time. Practiced, almost. And that's when Pete, 3 beers deep, says the thing that's apparently been sitting in his chest for over a year, waiting for an opening. You used to be one of us. Now you just write checks and disappear. You think money makes you better than this family? The room goes still. Your mother looks at her plate instead of at you, instead of defending you, and that, more than anything Pete said, is the thing that actually lands. Raymond's jaw tightens, but he says nothing either. His hand wrapped too hard around his coffee mug. Knuckles pale. You don't argue. You can't. Because somewhere beneath the hurt there's a quieter, more dangerous voice asking if Pete might be right. If somewhere in the last 14 months you became someone harder, someone colder, someone who flinches now at the sound of your own family's voice on the phone because you've learned to brace for the ask before the hello. You drive home that night replaying it, wondering if the money rotted something in you that used to be soft, or if it just removed the cover that used to hide how things always were. You don't have an answer. You just have the silence of the car and the radio you forget to turn on. The envelope, revisited. 5 months later, Sarah calls at 2 a.m. Her voice doesn't sound like Sarah's voice. It sounds like someone standing at the edge of something. His dad. They think it's his heart. You need to come. The hospital hallway smells like antiseptic and fear. Linda is in a chair too small for the weight she's carrying. Hands wrapped around a paper cup of coffee she isn't drinking. Sarah paces. Nobody mentions money. Nobody mentions Pete or Marcus or the roof or the wedding or any version of the scorecard that's been quietly running for over a year. There's only the question that matters. Whether your father is going to be okay. It's somewhere around 4 in the morning, in the gray hour where exhaustion strips everyone down to something honest, that Sarah tells you the thing she's never told you. That envelope. Back in 2009. I didn't have break money saved up. You look at her. I sold my engagement ring. The one Tommy gave me before things ended. I never told you. I never told anyone. I just needed you to not drop out, and I didn't have $340 any other way. You sit with that in the fluorescent hallway light for a long time. The machines beeping somewhere down the corridor. Your father's chest rising and falling on a screen you can see through the door if you turn your head. 12 years. She carried that. Never once mentioned it. Never once let it become leverage or a story she told to make herself look generous, or a debt she expected repaid with interest in the form of loyalty or guilt or anything else. She just loved you in the dark and let you think it cost her nothing. And suddenly the whole ledger you've been keeping without realizing it. Pete's comment, Marcus's texts, your mother's wounded voice on the phone, the roof, the wedding, every transaction disguised as family, collapses under the weight of one woman who gave up the last physical piece of a broken relationship and never said a word. You realize, sitting there, that you've been measuring the wrong people. The loud ones taught you to flinch. The quiet one taught you, 12 years too late, what it actually looks like to be loved without an invoice attached. The hose. Your father recovers. Slowly, but he does. Months later, you're at the house on a Sunday, and you find him in the driveway again. Same posture, same screwdriver, this time fixing the gutter bracket instead of the hose nozzle, still refusing the $4 replacement part sitting in a drawer somewhere he's forgotten about. You almost call out to stop him. You don't, because you understand it differently now. It was never about the $4. It was never about the screwdriver or the hose or the wedding or the roof or any single number on any single transaction. It was about which version of love announces itself and which version simply shows up year after year, asking for nothing, expecting nothing, keeping no record at all. You learn, slowly, that money doesn't reveal who your family is. It just turns up the volume on what was already true. And the people worth keeping were never the ones counting what you owed them. They were the ones who never once let you know they were counting at all.